Today, we're going to comb through the 2026 free agent class for the best fits for the Mariners. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Thursday, October 30th, 2025. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. And as always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone, and on there we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/control the zone. Link in the description. On the show today, we're going to do our free agency overview, looking at this year's class for fits for the Mariners. We're going to specifically look at bullpen options, starting pitchers in case the Mariners trade from their rotation, and of course, some of the position players at some of the biggest needs for the Mariners across the diamond and in the grass. But we'll start with the bullpen, and I mean, we're probably playing a losing game doing this exercise because obviously, like, the Mariners and free agency go together like peanut butter and frozen pizza. So they might not sign a single free agent this offseason. Who knows? You're a sick freak, so I'm not surprised that you would actually think that that's
peanut butter goes good on a lot.
Probably not frozen pizza. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say probably not.
Well, I mean, like, are we replacing the tomato sauce with or is it just a glob of
peanut butter on top of frozen pizza?
Okay, yeah. Well, then probably not.
Yeah, no. The other thing too is, like, with the bullpen specifically, they haven't spent real money on a reliever in 8 years, 7 years, like
2018.
Yeah, when did they sign Scrabble or Sepchinsky?
I think it was the 2017 offseason.
Yeah, and then Nicasio was the offseason before that, right?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, Hirano was the last guy that they spent some money on in free agency.
I think they only gave him a couple $1,000,000 though. Like,
still, that's more than they usually spend on their bullpen free agency wise.
Right.
So yeah, and that was like 2020. So it's been a while. So we're gonna come through these names though, just in case, because the Mariners do need to add more bullpen help, especially as we learned over the course of the postseason. And there are quite a few names in here that we talked about leading up to the trade deadline. The Phil Matons of the world, the Danny Coulombs, Kyle Finnegans, etc. Who stands out to you the most from this group?
Yeah, I mean, again, the tricky part here is that there's just not a lot of belief that the Mariners are going to spend money. And so you kind of have to look at the top guys here and say, like, well, they're out. Like, the Mariners are not going to spend what it takes to get Suarez, assuming he opts out of his deal, which they shouldn't, by the way. I'm not mad at them for not spending, huge amounts of money on relievers. You kind of have to remove some of the top guys from your consideration, but there are guys like Phil Maton who we've talked about, over the course of the trade deadline. There are some guys like Devin Williams would be kind of an interesting, if the price gets low enough. He did not have a great year with New York, but he gives the Mariners something they don't really have coming out of their bullpen, which is, a non-fastball slider guy. To try and get out. So if the price is right there, I could see them, sniffing around, but probably going to get priced out on that. Emilio Pagan is another guy, probably going to get priced out on him. I mean, you're looking for guys who are going to make probably less than $5 million would be my guess, is that's the market the Mariners are going to be shopping in. So yeah, Phil Maton is the guy I think here. I think perhaps I think Finnegan's going to make more than that. I kind of like Sean Armstrong a little bit here. Former Mariner. He pitched very well for, I believe, Texas this year. And also you kind of have to consider the lefties here. The Mariners really only have one that you trust. And I think Danny Coulomb is a really interesting add here. kind of fell apart a little bit at the end of the year for the Rangers, but overall has been very good for the last couple of years. And I do think he's 36, so you're not looking at a long-term commitment there. I do think adding that second lefty would be something of value. Ultimately, I think the Mariners probably look towards the trade market to add to their bullpen like they usually do. But there are some options here. And again, there usually are some interesting. And then like if they want to throw some shots at guys, do they want to take a shot on Alexis Diaz? I know it's been a while since he's been good, but that's, a low cost guy. I just don't see them getting in on the Ryan Helsleys and the Suarez of the world. And even like the Kenley Jansen types who are just going to make, $10 million just because of their name. Like the Mariners aren't going to go there.
Yeah, no. The guy that stands out the most to me from this list is Michael Kopech, who missed most of this year due to injury. And that's really the only reason I think the Mariners might actually like have a shot here. Maybe he winds up having to sign kind of a 1-year prove it type deal for, $4 to $7 million ish. Maybe there's an option there to give him a little bit of a buyout as well on the back end. But he's a guy that, he fits right in line with the profile that the Mariners have a ton of in their bullpen. Like you mentioned, fastball slider guy. The difference here, though, is he gets a ton of whiffs on his fastball, or he did in 2024, right? He got 34% whiffs on the four-seamer. 23% on the slider. Would like to see that a bit higher. But overall, like opponents didn't do much damage against that pitch either. There's a lot of upside there with a guy like Kopech, and again, because of the injury, maybe you're actually able to get him at a price that the Mariners are comfortable with. Another guy that I've always just been intrigued by, going back to his Royals days, is Jacob Junis. Who's coming off of like a decent-ish year with Guardians. That profile has always screamed Mariners to me. His fastballs, though, get knocked around a ton, but I feel like he's a guy that has always just been destined to be a Mariner at some point. So maybe this is the year that finally happens. I don't know. But like you said, they're probably going to go on the trade market to add whatever relief talent they add this winter. And hopefully they add multiple guys. Hopefully it's not just another, let's collect a bunch of pile arms. Obviously that's something that they're naturally going to do, just like every other team, because like we talked about the other day, best way to get value out of your bullpen is by doing that and by taking shots on guys and doing it cheap, especially if you're a team that doesn't spend as much like the Mariners. I would like to see them go add some guys who are good right now, but if they do that, it's probably going to be via trade rather than the free agent market. So we'll see. But yeah, Kopech's a guy that I really like. And then, obviously Coulomb and Hobie Milner and some of those guys that we talked about a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to look at the starting pitchers just in case the Mariners trade from their rotation, whether it's, dumping Luis Castillo like we think might happen this offseason, or maybe they surprise us with like a Logan Gilbert trade or a George Kirby trade. What could they do to potentially backfill that spot in their rotation if that happens? We'll go over that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. So if the Mariners are going to go out and actually give a free agent a considerable amount of money, someone that, didn't play for them in 2025, so discounting the Josh Naylors and the Jorge Polancos of the world, my guess is it would be a starting pitcher, because they shouldn't have any issues attracting free agent interest from pitchers, both relievers and starters, just given how favorable T-Mobile Park is for arms. And I mean, they were able to give a pretty big contract out to one of the best starting pitchers in the 2021 free agent class, Robbie Ray. They were also very much in on Kevin Gossman at that same time. So if they wind up trading Luis Castillo, or maybe they surprise us again, like I said, and trade Gilbert or Kirby, maybe this is the winner. They finally do that. They're going to have to do something better than we're just going to backfill with Logan Evans or Emerson Hancock. Now, maybe they get the guy to do that back in the trade for Castillo or Gilbert or Kirby or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if not, I think they actually could realistically go out on the free agent market and add someone. Because again, like I think they'll garner quite a bit of free agent interest because of the ballpark that they play in. It's kind of just the opposite of how we talk about free agent hitters with this club. The other thing, though, is like how much money are they willing to actually spend, and how much of like Luis Castillo's money, for example, would they be willing to reinvest in his replacement? Because obviously, I think the main point of potentially dumping Castillo and saving as much money as possible, if that's the goal, would be to spread that out to other needs that they have on the roster, not just to go get his replacement. So, right. Where do you think that line is, specifically when you look at this list of starters?
Yeah, it's tough to say because, one thing we also have to keep in mind is that the Mariners probably aren't looking for a, 3, 4, 5 year type of pitcher. They probably just need a stopgap. And then, Kate Anderson is already knocking on the door, and Senja, assuming they stay in the org, is, a little bit behind him, but not that far behind him. Be ready by the time Logan Gilbert, would hit free agency, if he does in fact hit free agency, and that's the next closest guy to free agency. So it does feel like, maybe you only need a 1 or 2 year type of stopgap here, but obviously the lower years you give, the higher the AAV you have to give, and that can make things a little complicated if you're trying to save as much of that Castillo money as possible. One name that kind of jumped out is Chris Bassett, who, longtime veteran, different look than what the Mariners have in their rotation. Probably still going to cost between 12 and 15 million bucks, even though he's 37 years old, coming off of a mediocre, okay year. But he'll eat innings. He's a veteran. He knows how to pitch and all that. And so he kind of replaces Castillo in that very strict, like veteran presence type of role. You could probably rule out the Dylan Ceases of the world. I feel like because of the ballpark, you might be an attractive spot for Patrick Corbin, who we saw have a pretty good year for the Rangers. Well, pretty good start of the year for the Rangers. Former Mariner legend Nestor Cortez makes some sense here. He's a lefty, gives you a different look out of your rotation, pitching in this ballpark. He's really figured some stuff out since leaving the Mariners. So I think that could be a nice little 1 year bounce back, get your numbers back, get healthy, and then go hit the market next year type of guy there. And then Adrian Hauser is interesting. He had a really good year this year. Mariners saw him a couple times. They jumped him once, and he got and they got by him the other time, famously pitching for the White Sox after being acquired earlier that day. So
didn't he also pitch well against them in the Tampa, the visit to Tampa?
I think that's the one that they jumped him on, because remember he wore the Oklahoma City Thunder jersey.
No, that was in Seattle, where they got 4 off of him in the first inning.
Oh yeah,
in Tampa they
yeah.
got swept. I'm pretty sure he pitched one of the games.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that he's probably he might have pitched his way to a multi-year contract, so maybe not.
Maybe.
But yeah, I do think it's the Nestor Cortez, the Chris Bassett types. There are better options, and if the Mariners really want to go all in on this season, and they want to go get a hired gun, I think Zach Gallen would be a phenomenal fit in this ballpark and in this rotation, but he's probably going to make 18 to 20 million bucks.
So one thing we've seen over the last few years, especially with how exorbitant these starting pitcher contracts have gotten, even for mid starting pitchers is that teams have converted relievers and signed them to fairly reasonable deals, converted them into starters, and that's produced mixed results. You know, there's been like the Jordan Hicks of the world where it hasn't really worked out, and then there's like Clay Holmes and Michael King, guys like that have actually panned out pretty well. I wonder if maybe now this would require a multi-year commitment, but there's been rumors that this guy might wind up being the next one of these pitchers that gets converted. He has started in the past, and we know that the Mariners like him. So much so that they did have him in their organization just a couple of years ago, Luke Weaver. What do you think that would cost, though?
13 to 15 million a year, probably 3 or 4 year deal.
And it's possible that's all the money that you've saved from Castillo.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what the Castillo trade would look like.
Because I don't think even best case scenario, even if you're like getting basically nothing back for Castillo, you're not getting all 24 mil off your bucks for 2026.
No, now with another year that the other team has to pay for as well. I don't think you're going to clear all that. So you're going to have to either take on some money or you're going to have to send some money.
So it's very possible that at maximum, you're probably saving 13 to 15 million bucks on Castillo in 2026. So so turning around and signing Weaver. Now, maybe you just think that Weaver is a better pitcher than Castillo at this point. You would rather take that shot than continue to go down this road with Castillo. So
we should also acknowledge that you can't backload contracts. So you can, all that is a deferred money, not something the Mariners do, but that is a path that you can take. So just because the guy's AAV is like $15 million a year doesn't mean you're spending $15 million on him this year. And then you can kind of figure it out in 27 and 28, when in theory, your payroll should continue to go up. So, it is, although
Clay Holmes got 3 years. Clay Holmes got 3 years and 38 mil from the Mets last year. That includes a player option, a $12 million player option in 2027. I assume the structure would look pretty similar to that for Weaver.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
All right, we're going to finally look at some bats, some position players in general that are hitting the free agent market in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. And if you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. So, you would think going into this offseason that with all the free agents the Mariners have hitting the market, that bats would be the biggest need for the M's, not pitching. But we spent this entire episode so far just talking about free agent pitching. But I think for good reason. And also because, attracting free agent hitters to Seattle, not typically something the Mariners do. Not something that they've done successfully in the past. And also something that they haven't really explored that much either. So, again, we might be playing a losing game here going through this list. This might be all for naught, but we're going to comb through this list of position players and talk about, a couple of guys that we like, a couple of names to keep an eye on. Obviously, like the biggest names on this list, they're not coming to Seattle. So we're not even going to waste our time talking about Kyle Tucker and Pete Alonso and all that. Cody Bellinger, I know they had interest in him. Yeah, they had interest in him, great interest in him last year in trading for him, but they just couldn't get the Cubs to eat enough of the money that they wanted.
Cody Bellinger might be the best fit of all the free agents.
Really? Not Bregman?
Yeah. I mean,
Or
it's
Tucker?
him or Bregman, I think. I think Bellinger, just because Tucker's going to cost $400 million.
Sure.
Like Bellinger, I think when you can factor in the contract they're actually going to get, he might be the best fit. I think it's either him or Bregman, but we don't have to worry about that because neither of them are coming to Seattle.
No.
Probably.
Yeah, we're more so going to be looking at the guys that we think are going to make 10 million or less, right? The Mariners are going to spend more than that on a position player. It's probably just going to be on their guys that are hitting free agency. Yeah, Naylor or Polo. Highly doubt Gino's coming back. So yeah,
there's a scenario where the market crashes and
like if his market falls apart and it's like February, and he's still there, like sure,
sure.
But yeah, so where do you want to start? Do you want to start with like maybe the options in case they lose out on Naylor, like the first base options?
Sure. There are some. People don't like to hear it, but there are some legitimate, pivots from Josh Naylor if that market gets out of hand. Ryan O'Hearn is a guy who's a free agent. He makes a lot of sense. Probably costs a little more than $10 million, but that is an option there. Probably your best one. Rhys Hoskins is an interesting guy. There's almost certainly going to be a free agent. I can't imagine that the Brewers are going to pick up that option. So that would be a right-handed bat, more power than contact, like with Naylor. If you want more of a contact guy, good news for all you Luis Arraez fans. He's a free agent. Luis Arraez, like Josh Naylor is who people think Luis Arraez is. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, he's an option as well. Paul Goldschmidt,
he got off to such a great start and then he fell off a cliff.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, all these guys, like, because you're talking about, it's really Ryan O'Hearn gap, and then it's like Rhys Hoskins type gap.
Yeah.
And then it's like your Goldschmidts, your Carlos Santanas, your Donovan Solanos. So, yeah, there are options at first base. There's a big one that I don't know if we're going to talk about later or not, so I'll just mention him here. But like kind of the big X factor in this free agent market right now, offensively at least, is Munetaka Murakami, who's coming over this year from Japan. Yeah. I am not a big fan. I don't think Ty is either. There's just a huge hole in the swing. He strikes out a ton in Japan, so that's going to go way up here in the States. He's 26. Like basically, if you don't throw him a pitch down the middle, he's probably not going to hit it. And he's also a very bad defender at third base and barely passable at first base. That's how bad he is there. But he is a name that will be linked to the Mariners a lot. We know that's going to happen just because. But he also does make a little bit of sense. But based on the contract that I saw projected for him to get, the Mariners should not even pretend to be interested.
He scares me. He scares me. But
I'm not interested.
Transitioning over to third base, which is where Murakami is listed, but again, he probably should just be a DH, frankly. Mm-hmm. Kazuma Akamoto is the other big name coming over from Japan. We've talked about him. He's also projected to get a pretty nice contract.
I'd rather give him the money than Murakami, though.
Yeah. It's just, if your name isn't Otani or Ichiro, it usually takes these players that have come over from Japan and Korea about a year at least to adjust to the majors. Mm-hmm. Am I willing to wait on that, considering what my aspirations are in 2026, especially for the money that I might take?
Not if I'm paying him $20 million in year one.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yoel Moncada is a guy that was heavily linked to the Mariners last offseason. He had a pretty good year with the Angels when he was available. He just wasn't available, which has been a problem for him for years now. But when he was healthy, he hit righties really well. Hardly got any opportunities against lefties. He's a switch hitter and struggled against lefties when he did see them. So that's kind of a platoon scenario there with Moncada, but there's some upside there. Obviously, former top prospect pedigree, and again, like when he was healthy, he was very good. I think he finished with like a 120 WRC plus or something like that this year. So yeah, Then there's guys like, obviously Gino, but then there's guys like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, whose glove has started to decline, and that's really his biggest tool that he has to offer.
Probably rather just give Ben Williamson a shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's guys like that, though. There are several options like that,
Yeah.
like Luis Rengifo, who had a terrible year last year, but was pretty good the year before. The eternal conversation of Ahmad Rosario, who a guy still
he's
makes
the
sense.
new Brandon Drury for us.
Sure. I mean, he still makes sense, though. He crushes lefties. He's a really good athlete. Not a great defender, despite the good athleticism, but he can play multiple spots. And so maybe he starts the year as your third baseman or your second baseman, and then he kind of transitions to your utility guy and your right-handed bat off the bench. But there's a name here that the Mariners were interested in over the summer, that we talked a lot about over the summer, and could potentially fill multiple spots on this roster. And that's Willie Castro.
Yeah. Who was terrible with the Cubs.
Terrible. But very good for the Twins. Been a very solid player throughout the course of his career, and absolutely rakes at T-Mobile Park.
Yeah.
Can also play second, third, shortstop.
And he's probably not a 1-year deal under $10 million.
Yep. I think so.
So
that's how bad he was in Chicago. He was like tracking to get a nice, 3-year, $45 million contract. And then it just, the floor just collapsed underneath him. So there's risk there. But again, he could play short. He could play second, third, all 3 outfield spots if you need him to.
Yeah.
And he rakes at T-Mobile Park. And, you can sign him, and you can still sign a third baseman. You can still trade for a second baseman or whatever, but you don't have to. You have one of those spots handled. Also, by the way, Willie Castro, pretty good base runner and a switch hitter. So lots to like there with Willie Castro.
Yeah. And then at second base, Gleyber Torres hitting free agency again. I assume that's another guy that's just out of the Mariners range, and I'm not sure how much interest he would have coming to Seattle. At second, it's probably Polo or bust for the M's if they're gonna add a second baseman, and Polo's probably going to be added to mostly DH like he did this year. And the Mariners are probably have their sights set on just rolling with Cole Young there to start the year. Outfield, this is obviously a place that we think the Mariners need to add, specifically in right field. Just after how bad right field was. I mean, obviously Dom Canzone was a revelation this year, but also he probably should only DH. So he really shouldn't be, even if he's, part of the 2026 roster in any sort of significant way, probably should just be as a DH. So you should probably look to do something else in right field, because who knows what you're going to get out of Victor Robles. So there's, the Trent Grishams of the world.
It'd be interesting.
Cedric Mullins, Mikey Stremski is a guy that's just constantly been very solid.
Max Kepler.
Max Kepler
crushes at T-Mobile Park, by the way.
Going to be looking for a bounce back deal. The one name that I'm keeping an eye on here, it's risky, but you should be able to get a pretty decent deal on him. He's going to get non-tendered. He is projected to make about $12 million from the Rangers. That would be Adolis Garcia, who is best friends with Randy Arozarena. I'm pretty sure he also has a pretty good relationship with Julio. So I think there would be interest there and him wanting to team up with those guys. But the last 2 years have been just so dreadful. But he feels like one of those guys that still has like one more good year in him. He feels like that type of guy that we see like
Yankees.
We see like one of these guys every single year that ends up either getting non-tendered or gets his option declined or whatever. It seems like he's at the end of his rope, and then he signs like a 1-year, $3-4 million deal with a team, and then he explodes. Right? I think about like Hunter Pence a few years ago. That's another example. Matt Carpenter, like you said, with the Yankees. I just feel like Adolis might be that guy. I feel like Adolis might have like another 120 WRC plus season in him.
Mm-hmm. Plus, it's worth noting that he's a plus corner outfielder defensively too. So even if the bat doesn't pop the way you want it to, he's not going to be any worse than what you ran out there last year. Even if he repeats what he did last year, he's still going to be, a net positive just on the defense alone. And like, he's probably about as good as Victor Robles in right field, with significantly more offensive upside. I'd throw this name out there. He might get priced out here, but Harrison Bader is a really interesting fit. Now, he does have a mutual option, but I think he can probably get more than $10 million on the open market. He can get multiple years. And, with the lockout looming, he might want to try and lock down a long-term security, blanket and not go into free agency following a lockout. So I think he'll probably opt out, but Bader would be very interesting as well. He can play all three outfield spots very well. And he really hit this year. So there's not like when you take out the Tuckers and the Bellingers, it's not a particularly great outfield class, but there are some solid veterans. There are some really strong bounce back candidates as well. And there's just some guys who are good fits and at the very least improve your defense, like Cedric Mullins. I know he had a really bad second half, but we know that guy can play some defense, and we know he's got some pop, and it plays at T-Mobile Park, and he can steal some bags. So yeah, there are some guys. There are some opportunities here. It's kind of like a mystery bag, and you hope you grab the right one. You might grab the bag that has, I don't know, like a Hershey's Kiss in it, or you might grab a bag that has like
a toothbrush.
Yeah, you might grab a bag that has like 1,000, Snickers bars, whatever it is. Like, it really is kind of a grab bag situation, and you just have to trust yourself to make the right call. And, I do think they need to do something in the outfield. Maybe Trent Grisham's year is repeatable. Do you want to bank on that? Somebody's going to. Might be you.
Lastly, the Mariners are going to decline Mitch Garver's mutual option. So he's going to become a free agent. Harry Ford right now is slotted to be the Mariners' backup catcher, but it's also very possible that he gets traded this winter, so they might have to be in the market for a backup catcher. So some names to keep an eye on there. Obviously Garver, again, just because you have the rapport there, he knows your pitching staff very well. Christian Vasquez, Danny Jansen, I think might wind up being too costly for them.
He's like a starting catcher. Yeah.
Carantini, I think it's just going to make too much because his bat was.
I think he's going to make like $6, $7, $8 million, and it just.
Yeah. I think the Mariners would probably be willing to spend like 3 or 4 on Garver.
It's not that Carantini or Danny Jansen aren't worth $7, $8, $9 million. It's just you have Cal Raleigh, so you don't need like a everyday catcher, and that's what those guys are. So you just need a true backup, and that's why Garver makes so much sense, and that's why Harry Ford would probably be ideal, but you might have to trade Harry Ford this winter.
All right. That is going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.